Good morning, everyone. Dr. Vaughn. This is section 3.1 quick video, and I'm also going to go into at least 3.3. Maybe we'll take a look at 3.2 as well. This is all about propositional logic, and in section 3.1 we start looking at the universal quantifiers, the all or none or some or at least one kind of qualifiers to something that's a true or a false statement. So in this particular question, number 9. The city council promised its citizens that in the event of snow, all major roads would remain open. So then it said they did not keep their promise. So we want to look at the negation of all, roads, and then would remain open. So the negation of that is there's at least one major road that did not remain open. So the negation of all is at least one that did not do whatever it promised. And I think that that's choice D here. Okay, now we're going to look at question 10. So this one actually gives you a bar graph, and it says, no college students in country C were willing to marry without romantic love. But if you look at country C, it said that 20% of the students were willing to marry without romantic love. And so this statement is false. It's not true that there's no college students. There's 20% of them are willing to marry without romantic love. So the negation of this statement, it's false. The negation of that is there's at least one college student who is willing to marry without romantic love. So some college students are willing to marry without romantic love, and that's the negation. All right, so now we're going to go into section 3.3, and we're going to look at question number 7. All right, so here we're building a truth table. So you don't necessarily have statements associated with P and Q, but they are these just propositions that have a true or a false value. And we're going to use these conjunctions and disjunctions and negations to chain together this more complicated looking compound statement. So we start with the different values of P and Q, and this table will fill out. Since there's only 2 of them, P and Q, there should be 4 different rows to this table by the time that we're done. So these are the starting values, and they're pre-populating for us. So now I'm just going to negate Q. So here Q is true, so I'll select false. Now I'm going to take the AND operator between the negation of Q, which I have right here, false, together with the P value. So false and true is false, because the AND operator, you have to have both trues in order for that to turn out to be true. So now I'm going to do the OR operator between the not Q and P, which is this part, or the not Q. So I have false or false, which is false. Now we're going to go to the next row. You have true for P and false for Q. So the negation of Q is going to be true. Now I'm going to do an AND operation with the negation of Q, which is true, and P, which is also true. So true and true is true. And now I'm going to do an OR operator with the negation of Q or this compound statement. So I'm just doing an OR between true or true, which again is true. With the OR operation, I only need one or the other to be true. Here I have both of them. All right, so now I'm going to do false for P and true for Q, which is going to make not Q false. The negation of Q is false. And now I'm going to do an AND operation between the negation of Q and P, false and false, which is false. And now I'm going to do an OR operation between false and false. False or false, they're both false. So again, this is false. And finally, we'll do false, false. So the negation of Q is going to be true. I'm going to do the true and false, which is false. And finally, I'm going to do an OR operation, true or false, which is true. All right, well, this has been, well, let's take a look at 3.4. All right, so we're doing, again, truth tables, this time with the implication. Let's skip up a little bit, maybe take a look at question 3. Okay, so I'm going to do Q implies P and R. This time we're going to have 8 different rows because of all the starting values for P, Q, and R. So I'll do P and R. So true and true is true. This time they don't give me the pull down operation. It looks like I need to type them here. Now Q, true implies, or the implication P and R. So true implies true is true. And if you don't know these rules, this is where you're going to want to look in your book for what the implication values are. It's basically they're all true, except true implies false is the only one that's false for the implication. Okay, so now we're going to do true, true, false. So the first thing I'm going to do is P and R, which is false. And then I have Q implies true implies false, which is false. Okay, now I'm going to do the P and R, which is true. And then false implies true, which is kind of weird, but it is true. Basically, if the hypothesis is false, you don't violate the implication. Now we'll do P and R, so true and false, which is going to give me false. And then I have false implies false, which is true. We're going to do P and R, false and true, which is false. And then I have true implies false, which is false. Here, false and false is false. True implies false, which is false. And false and true is false. And then I have false implies false, which is true. And finally, false and false is false. And then false implies false, which is true. All right, well, this has been Dr. Vaughn. We looked at 3 different sections of your homework. This will get you through most of the week. If you've done this before, it's not too terribly hard. Maybe the first time you go through it, you have to learn all of the rules about the implication, the and, the or, and then you just kind of do one little piece at a time with those rules. So I'd suggest having them written down maybe on a piece of paper next to your computer for when you're doing some of this homework, just the rules of how to combine just 2 things together at a time. And then you're applying them in just multiple steps to resolve these truth tables for the most part. Hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll talk to you again soon.